Why do children seem to forget something almost right after they learn it? You explain it clearly. They seem to get it. And then a few minutes later, it's gone. That can feel confusing, frustrating, and honestly, a little heartbreaking. But in many cases, it isn't defiance or lack of effort. It's how memory works. And here's the part that matters. This is extremely common. A child forgetting something they just learned is not proof they're lazy, careless, or not smart. Very often, they're trying hard. Their brain just hasn't held on to the information yet. So before we blame motivation, it helps to understand what memory is actually doing. To see why forgetting happens so fast, it helps to look at the brain's first stop for new information. That's short-term memory. It holds a small amount for a short time before the brain decides what matters. For learning to last, that information has to travel beyond short-term memory and into long-term memory. That transfer doesn't happen instantly. The brain needs a reason to keep the information instead of letting it fade. Repetition helps, but it works best when a child understands the idea and actively uses it. When a child revisits an idea, talks about it, or uses it in context, the memory gets stronger and easier to find again later. That's when learning starts to stick, not just for the moment, but for the next lesson, the next day, and beyond. So if that new idea isn't used, repeated, or connected to something meaningful, it can disappear very quickly. The next step is what matters most. The brain has to move that information somewhere more stable. But moving information into long-term memory doesn't happen by itself. Information is far more likely to stick when a child comes back to it more than once. But repetition works best when they understand it and actively do something with it, not just hear it again. Another reason children forget is cognitive overload. That's what happens when the brain gets more information than it can comfortably handle at once. It might look like a long list of instructions, a very fast explanation, or a task with too many steps all at the same time. When that happens, the brain starts filtering. It keeps some pieces, but other parts slip away before they can settle. Attention plays a huge role in memory. If a child is distracted, tired, anxious, or overwhelmed, the brain may not fully take in what's being taught. This can be especially true for children with ADHD. They may hear the words, but not get enough time or focus to fully process them. So later, it can look like forgetting, when really the information never had a fair chance to settle in. Another big reason learning fades is simple. One-time exposure usually isn't enough. The brain strengthens memory by coming back to the same idea again and again over time. So a child may understand something in the moment, but still lose it later if that learning isn't reinforced. So that's the why. Now let's shift into the what. If your child forgets quickly, there are practical ways to make learning easier, calmer, and much more likely to stick. The first strategy is simple. Reduce how much your child has to process at one time. Instead of giving 3 or 4 instructions together, give one clear step, let them do it, and then give the next one. That one change lowers overload and gives the brain a much better chance to focus and remember. Next, use repetition, but make it meaningful. Hearing the exact same thing the exact same way can get tiring fast. Instead, change the format. Say it out loud, write it down, draw it. Turn it into a quick game or a real-life example. The more ways the brain interacts with the same idea, the more likely that memory is to stick. Another powerful strategy is to ask your child to explain the idea in their own words. Instead of asking, "Do you understand?" Try asking, "Can you tell me what you just learned?" That matters because retrieving information is active work for the brain. And that act of pulling it back out helps strengthen the memory far more than just hearing it one more time. Visual supports can make a big difference. They give the brain another pathway for understanding and remembering. That might be a chart, a color-coded list, a simple diagram, a drawing, or even a quick visual cue on a page. These tools can be especially helpful for children who find reading heavy or language-heavy learning more difficult. Another helpful approach is to revisit learning over time instead of trying to make it all stick in one sitting. You might come back to the same idea later that day, the next day, and again after that. Each revisit tells the brain, this matters, keep it, and that's how long-term memory gets stronger. It's also important to give your child time to process. Some children simply need a little longer to think, understand, and respond. When we rush them, it can add pressure and make learning even harder to hold on to. A calm pause can do more good than a quick push. Patience really is part of the teaching. And finally, remember this: forgetting is not a failure. It's part of how learning works. Every time a child comes back to an idea, the pathway can grow stronger. So if your child forgets, it doesn't mean they're incapable. It means they need time, repetition, and support. And with that support, they can build stronger memory, more confidence, and a healthier relationship with learning. There is real reason for hope. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. For further questions and inquiries, you may contact us at 65646533 or 8614-7651, or visit www.cognitive.com.sg.